Hello, and greetings from warm and sunny Zanzibar in beautiful Tanzania. Welcome to our Africa Special show, where we'll be bringing you news and deeper dives into the work we're doing here on this incredible continent.
Hello indeed, and thank you, John. And in place of this month's Cardano 360, we're delighted to be bringing you a unique and much awaited Africa special. The show itself has been weeks in the making, drawing upon partners and collaborators from across the continent, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Nigeria, and so on. But in fact, the news we're going to share with you today has been the result of many years of working on the continent itself, a slow and steady process of building capability, connections, and above all, trust. As much as we're looking forward to the future, the focus for this show is on the here and now. What's happening, what's being built, what's being delivered. So coming up in today's show, we'll be sharing more information on our new partnership with the government of Ethiopia, announced this week, in what we believe is the biggest public blockchain deal ever. We'll have an exclusive interview with a government minister driving blockchain adoption and innovation in the country, and hear more about the solution that we're deploying. We'll also have another exciting announcement today about a second major partnership in Africa, this time centred in Tanzania, to roll out mobile internet connectivity, digital identity and financial empowerment to rural communities across Africa. In the show, we'll meet some members of our African community and update you on a partnership helping us build out centres for innovation and entrepreneurship across Africa. The Cardano Foundation will also announce a brand new collab with COTI and one of the world's leading charities. And we'll be joined by Emurgo to give their perspective on the commercial opportunities for a vibrant, youthful economy. Last but not least, we'll close with a fascinating panel session with Charles, Jerry, our Chief Commercial Officer, Dynal Patel and John O'Connor on what the tech future might hold for Africa, moderated by veteran Financial Times Africa journalist David Pilling. But before we head back over to Africa, let's begin in Colorado.
Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson from warm, sunny Colorado. Thank you all for coming to the Africa Special. This is one of my favorite events, and I think it's perhaps one of the greatest moments in my career as the CEO of Input Output. I started my company in February of 2015 with a dream of delivering economic identity to those who don't have it. The reality is the world lives still in two different configurations, one for the developed and one for the developing. In the developed world, there are many things we take for granted. The fact that it's easy for us to have an identity, passports, driver's licenses. It's easy for us to travel. It's easy for us to prove our creditworthiness and get credentials. It's easy for us to borrow money, get insurance, and to process payments. For example, if someone does a service for you, you can Venmo them something. You can send them a PayPal transaction. We take this for granted, and for the most part, it's part of our daily lives, just like breathing or drinking water. But when you live in the developing world, it's a very different prospect. It's very difficult to globalize. It's difficult to prove claims, whether you're producing something with fair trade or in a sustainable way. It's difficult for people to receive money and send money. These remittance transactions on average carry an 8 to 15% fee. When a person wants to borrow money, if it's even possible, these microfinance transactions can have interest rates as high as 85%, according to the World Bank. And the reason this exists is not because of avarice or because of racism or some unpronounced evil in the global order. Rather, it's because of systems. Some countries enjoy systems that are structurally superior to other systems. And the problem is that the legacy systems that we have are fundamentally incompatible with total globalization without admitting total centralization behind one standard, such as the American way or the Chinese way. The world is beyond that. This is no longer the 20th century. This is the 21st century. A century with the iPhone, a century with the internet, a century where information moves instantaneously. And as a consequence, we have a better way of governing the world order. We no longer need central entities. We no longer need central governments. Just like the internet, the things that can process our payments, our contractual relationships, hoist up our identity, our property, and permit the gears of commerce to work can be done through the very same technology that has enabled innovations like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano. I started my company in 2015 with a first principles approach. We started with science. We built labs all throughout the world, hiring dozens of PhDs, and we wrote over 100 papers, many of which have been processed through the wonderful crucible of peer review. And citation after citation later, conference after conference later, journal after journal later, we've built out a corpus of scientific knowledge that has allowed us to understand how to build systems that can scale not just to millions, but inevitably to billions of users, and preserve a fundamental truth that we are all equal, and we all deserve access to the same marketplaces. Whether you're Bill Gates or the shepherd from Senegal, you should receive equal treatment and consideration and be given equal access to markets, and allow merit to be the differentiator, not geography or genetics. As a consequence of these years of effort and time that we've put in, we have been able to build great protocols like Cardano. And this special is not about aspirations. It's not about promises. This special is about delivery. For the past 4 years, our people have lived in Ethiopia and have traveled throughout the entire continent of Africa. Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, Nigeria, Kenya, all around, South Africa. No matter where the winds would take them, the promises and commitments and dreams were the same. We had the desire to spread our vision of how we can change the way the world works, from the top down to the bottom up, pushing power to the edges and allowing people to be their own bank, allowing people to have their own identity. And today, this special is showing all of you the fruits of our labors over the past 4 years. The flagship of which is a deal that we have closed with the Ministry of Education containing 5 million students using a technology called Prism integrated in the Cardano blockchain. Every one of these students will have a digital ID called a DID, and that DID carries with it metadata that will travel with them throughout their entire academic life, and like those who left Facebook's clutches of the university into the real world, will actually follow them into the economic world. So as they graduate, as they go into the economy, eventually this infrastructure can be used for property, for payments, for voting, and all other manners of their economic life. And what's beautiful about this evergreen deal is it's extensible. Our priorities and goals are directly aligned with the vision and priorities and goals of the Ethiopian government. In a recently published doctrine of Ethiopia 2025, there was a bold vision to digitize the country on 4 pillars, the first of which was a national ID system. It is our belief that the work we have done here with Prism and Cardano for these 5 million students will inevitably grow to be an inspiration and perhaps the system for 107 million Ethiopians, allowing them for the first time to globalize on equal terms with the United States, the European Union, China, and other modern developed economies. In addition to this system goes far beyond just identity. Our belief is that it can be used to help people procure jobs, to help people prove their skills, because the system can verify credentials, the system can verify certificates, the system can be used for a litany of activities which are required for people to understand who are credible actors to deal with and who have earned the right to have a job. Now, that's just Ethiopia. This special also includes our partners in Tanzania, the World Mobile, and partners throughout the continent. And each and every one of them have hopes and dreams about how to apply this technology. The magic of Cardano is, like Bitcoin before it, it's permissionless. It does not require someone to register or license something. It does not require someone to ask to use it. Rather, it's an open platform. And while these deals were spearheaded by Input Output Global and our partners, they serve as an inspiration for countless thousands of entrepreneurs throughout the continent to realize their dreams, their businesses, whether it be a decentralized Uber, whether it be securitizing a small company, whether it be a completely new way of representing resources in trade and commerce. It's an open piece of infrastructure accessible to all, for all, throughout the continent to be able to realize their dreams. Our industry's brought a lot of really cool innovations. NFTs, DeFi, STOs, ICOs, and all of these things, for the most part, have been based upon promises of a new world. I believe over the next 5 years, as this technology rolls across all of Africa and many other places in the world, such as Southeast Asia, Central Asia, Eastern Europe, that these promises can be transformed into completely new business models. All of these things are possible with the technology we've constructed, built with formal methods and advanced languages like Haskell for everyone, and validated by peer review. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for listening. And I love this celebration of what has been done, and I'm looking to the future. I hope to make this an annual event. Cheers.
Hopefully now you've started to build a better understanding of IO's vision and commitment to the region. Education and the nation's development go hand in hand. Education brings benefits like improving the economic and financial lifestyle of its citizens and determining the prospects of future generations. That's why this next partnership has been such a priority for our team here. So, Minister, how did this initiative come about?
For the last 5 years or so, I was serving as a Minister of Science and Technology, then as a Minister of Innovation and Technology before coming to the Minister of Education. So when I was a Minister of Science and Technology, we had this engagement with IOHK, and so it was my intention back then to bring new technologies, and of course it's also my responsibility to bring in new technologies, and one of the new technologies that I wanted to see in Ethiopia was a blockchain technology. With IOHK, we managed to conduct some trainings for girls, so that's how the whole idea came. So when I came to the Minister of Education, then I wanted to make use of the potential of blockchain technology within the education sector. So in Ethiopia and in Africa, in many countries, many people say that there is an issue of quality of education. We have to think of how quality can be improved. And one of the easiest way and one of the doable way of improving quality is basically technology. So as soon as I landed here in the Ministry of Education, I came up with a new idea called DTEST, Digital Technology for Education Sector Transformation. And this initiative is all about bringing technology to improve the quality of education. And when we say technology, whatever latest technology we have. So it's very practical to think of blockchain technology to improve quality of education here in Ethiopia and also in many developing countries as well. I came to know that IOHK opened the African office here in Ethiopia, here in Addis. And so when I see IOHK is also with Charles Atkinson, the founder of ADA, the Cardano cryptocurrency. So Cardano is one of the top 4 or 5 cryptocurrencies available in the world. So that means that doing blockchain with IOHK is like a dream coming true for me. I formally, as a Minister of Science and Technology, I formally requested IOHK and also Charles Atkinson to start doing something, if I'm not mistaken, 10 weeks training. And the first batch, I personally, as a Minister of Science and Technology, decided to make it the first batch all girls trainee. And 4 of those girls came from Uganda. So that is how we came across IOHK. When we go back to the history of how IOHK came about and the whole philosophy behind the formation of Cardano and the whole blockchain science, blockchain technology, in IOHK we see huge collaboration with universities and huge investment on research on blockchain technology by IOHK. So it means that it has an academic foundation, it has an academic partnership. So you cannot really get the level of understanding of somebody by simply providing a test twice a year or once in a year. One thing we decided is to have a digital ID for our students, especially focusing into the secondary school. So we started providing digital ID for all of our 12th grade students. But our plan in this blockchain technology is to provide a digital ID for close to 5 million students in the secondary school. So the issue is that once these students have digital ID, so we can uniquely identify those students. So once we are able to uniquely identify, then we have to have a system by which every performance of that students be captured online, real, live, so that we know how good that student is in terms of mathematics, in terms of physics, and so on. We need to capture the whole performance, engagement of that students with his subjects, with his teachers, with his peers, and so on and so on. So this can be done only with blockchain. Nothing, I don't think other technologies are able to really perform that level of analytics, that level of accuracy, and that level of privacy as well, and that level of security as well. So for that reason, blockchain is only a technology I imagine would address those concerns I have. And so the volume is that the first deployment is around 5 million. That is the scale of the project, but that's the first phase of deployment. But through time, maybe over the coming 5 years or so, we also want to extend or scale up into the mid-secondary school, grade 7 and grade 8, and to the lower primary schools as well. But within the coming 1 year, 2 years time, especially the first 1 year time, our plan is to deploy blockchain performance analytics, blockchain-based monitoring of intellect, knowledge. And I think blockchain deployment in education sector, this makes the biggest I ever come across, and this makes Ethiopia the biggest user of blockchain technology in the education sector. Here now in Ethiopia, we have more than 27 million students, and as I said, we have close to 5 million secondary school students and 700,000 teachers. With this technology, I would know all of my students, their strengths, their weakness, all of my teachers, their weakness, their strengths. Whether we like it or not, we are in the fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution is digitalization. So digitalization means if you are not part of the digitalization, then you are left aside. You will not catch up with the progress of technology. So this is not only in the education sector, in every sector. So digitalization is a foundation of where we are now as fourth industrial revolution. So there is no way we would be able to do things, or we would be successful without making life digitalized. So we can see blockchain technology is engulfing whatever digital technology we are having. Financial technology is becoming very dominant user for blockchain technology. And now education sector coming in, health sector coming in, transportation sector coming in. So I don't see in the near future, I don't see any competing technology other than blockchain technology. That's why I decided to bring blockchain technology into the education sector. If blockchain technology is successful in financial sector, then surely it will be successful in all sectors for it.
So, some 5 million students onboarded onto the Cardano blockchain, and this is just the beginning in a nation committed to using blockchain to transform and digitalize its economy, from education to agriculture, manufacturing, and more. Now, at the heart of this is Atala Prism, a decentralized identity solution developed by Input-Output for Cardano. Let's hear more about the Atala vision from one of its key architects, Chief Product Officer Dynal Patel, and more details on the integration underway in Ethiopia.
I'm Dynal Patel. I'm the Chief Product Officer at IOG. I'm originally from Zambia. I studied in South Africa, and I'm really blessed to be working with a talented group of engineers and academics to build solutions that will work for my home country and also the rest of Africa. So in developed markets, we really take identity for granted, but identity is really core to accessing a host of services. So whether you want to apply for a loan or apply for insurance, you need to have your identity. Cardano is an open platform that seeks to provide economic identity for the billions of people who lack it by enabling decentralized applications for identity, value, and governance. Atala Prism is a decentralized identity solution that's really bringing the users that will consume those services built on Cardano. So it's really that simple. Atala Prism is an open identity system that is key for financial inclusion. So in the case of Ethiopia, it's all starting with 5 million people. IOG is very excited to be working with the Ethiopian Minister of Education to create a next generation blockchain-based identity solution that can track grades and educational attainment of students throughout their educational life from kindergarten to 12th grade. There'll be a number of applications built, including a web-based application that will allow the MOE and educational institutions to manage students throughout their educational life. Schools can easily view student details and see all credentials that have been issued to them or received from them. The MOE and all educational entities will be able to easily create and issue credentials to any group of students. Schools will also be able to easily monitor attendance. A learning management system component will also enable the creation of learning and development programs. Every student will be issued with a tablet with the MOE application installed. On registering in the application, a unique digital identity will be created, and this will be anchored in the Cardano blockchain. Students will be able to connect to their school and receive all their educational credentials. These will be securely stored, and they can easily be shared with universities and potential employers. The app will also have functionality to allow students to view what classes they enrolled in, their attendance records, and their progress throughout the school year. So the technology we've developed to deliver this is groundbreaking, and as a consumer application, we've designed this to be as user-friendly as possible and made it mobile-focused. It's going to enable really a customer-centric identity system that's more secure, more transparent, and also more auditable. This is part of the Ethiopia strategy to leverage new technology and realize its potential in the digital space. So we're building the solution for Ethiopia right now. We expect to see that in market in 6 to 9 months from now. The next phase will focus on expand national ID programs to allow financial institutions to also record financial transactions. This is just the start. Local banks and micro-lending institutions will be able to verify the citizens and provide financial services. I was inspired to join IOG really because of Charles's vision for financial inclusion. Over 1 billion people on this planet do not have access to financial services, and over half of those are from Africa. In developing countries, people are unable to really access financial services for 2 reasons. Firstly, they don't have an identity that's required to be able to go and open a bank account. Secondly, they're not able to use their informal credit history that they might have got from getting a loan from your local shopkeeper or the micro-lending institution close to where you live, or the local farming cooperative. They're not able to take this credit history that you've got there and apply it to a bank. So solving these 2 systemic issues has the opportunity to unlock billions of dollars worth of capital. And it's important to underscore this is not charity. Unbanked users are not riskier than banked users. So there's a real opportunity there for us to go after. The system is quite open, so it can also provide and capture additional data. For example, it can capture information about loan repayments, and it can also capture personal information such as land registration data, your health data, among other things. So Atala covers a whole range of Layer 2 solutions, from credentialing, track and trace solutions, product authentication. We've been developing Atala for over 2 years now, and very early on we recognized that identity was key to unlocking a whole range of services. Smart contracts will enable further opportunities. They will enable basically the creation of decentralized insurance and lending providers that are able to compete at lower price points and also provide services that are more equitable for everyone. We're also working on Hydra, which is our scalability solution, and this will enable micropayment use cases. We're very excited about our work in Ethiopia, issuing the first government-endorsed digital ID to all students. This is an important first step towards our goal of enabling financial inclusion across the continent.
So let's look a little closer at the technology that makes all of this possible. The DID, the digital identifier, which lives on the Cardano blockchain. Technical architect Alexis has created a step-by-step walkthrough, so if you're a developer and want the full 13-minute version, check out the Africa Special playlist on YouTube to do the full deep dive. But for now, let's just take a quick peek at the code in action.
Hi everyone, this is Alexis, Atala Prism technical architect at IOHK.
What you're looking into right now is the official documentation website that we will eventually release, and this talks about the SDK that was built using Kotlin multi-platform, which targets Swift, Java and JavaScript, so that you can do any integration in any of those languages. It includes some tutorials and references, like the usage tutorial and integration tutorial. Depending on what you need, we have it covered here. Let's go to the code example that I had prepared for this presentation. We are targeting to run a very simple use case, which is an issuer that is willing to issue a credential for what it requires to generate a DID and publish it to Cardano. This DID is going to be used for the credential that the issuer is going to issue. Then the credential will be issued and published to the Cardano network. And at last, there is a verifier involved who is willing to verify the credential that the holder has, which is done by resolving some data from the Cardano network. Overall, it's pretty simple, and it's explaining in the SDK documentation. You can see the first step that was generating the DID for the issuer and getting it posted in the Cardano network. At first we generate a key, then we create an operation, and then we use the node in order to send the operation to the Cardano testnet.
I hope you have enjoyed this sneak peek into our project. We will be sharing our documentation and more details in the coming months. Thank you.
So, any developers out there, please check that out later, and remember that the platform is open source, so stand by for an open repo and full documentation in due course. And let's get building. So, before moving on from Atala Prism and digital identities, let's just close this section with a nice, concise, simple explainer, recapping what digital identity is and why it matters. And when you're looking for a nice explainer video, there's only one man to go to.
Identity is part of our everyday lives. We use our identity multiple times every day without really thinking about it. When we open a mobile money account, apply for a new loan, pay tuition fees, make a medical appointment, get access to our workplace, or even access to government services. Every time we do any of these activities or a million others, we're using our identity. Mobile technology has transformed our world and continues to. From high-end smartphones in developed economies through to simpler devices in developing ones, mobiles have become a part of our everyday life. And because of the rapid evolution in digital infrastructure and connectivity, we are now on the verge of transitioning from a pre-internet way of doing things into a new era of managing our identities online, and that brings up the question, what does transitioning to a digital world look like? In the modern world, we carry our identity everywhere we go, in the form of ID cards, passports, train or bus passes, medical cards, driver's licenses, and the list goes on. Our wallets are stuffed with physical representations of who we are. These forms of identification work because society traditionally recognizes and accepts them as a valid proof of someone's identity. And what we aim to do is give everybody the ability to use digital credentials much in the same way that you use physical credentials today. We are building a way to enable digital trust, and this is where Atala Prism comes in. Much like how we store our credit and ID cards in our wallets, Atala Prism is like a mobile wallet for all your important documents, like government ID, diplomas, health insurance, vouchers, and more that will allow you to own, control, and share these verified credentials independently to any organization, agency, or institution at any time. Just like the framework that currently exists to validate physical credentials, digital identities need a set of standards to validate the authenticity of a digital identifier. When it comes to your digital identity, the decentralized identifier and the verified credentials standards allow you to easily prove who you are in a common format that is widely accepted and recognized, all while keeping your actual identity and personal information safe and secure, and cutting out any middleman. And you might be familiar with the ability to log into third-party services or apps using your Google or Facebook account. And Atala Prism will allow you to do something very similar, but instead of using an account owned by somebody else, you have total control and ownership over what information is shared. And even better, all of your digital identities are stored on your smartphone, which offers greater security and portability. And now let's take a look at how this all works. Meet Joe. He's just an average guy, and he's going to help you understand how the digital credentials process works. Joe downloads the Atala Prism app and registers his account. A unique private DID is created, and this serves as a unique digital ID for interactions with the government services he'll be accessing. The government verifies Joe's ID and scans and records his biometric data to create a unique digital ID. Joe is then issued a digital ID, which is cryptographically signed with the government's DID. Joe's unique identifier is also included in his credentials. The digital ID is stored on Joe's phone and securely backed up in a personal data store. Whenever Joe needs to access any digital service, such as social programs, medical or academic records, voting, banking, and even insurance, the service provider can independently and confidently verify his identity without having to ask the issuer, in this case, the government. Websites, apps, or possible employers can all check that Joe's credentials are valid and provide the requested service. So, what makes a decentralized identity secure and trustworthy? In one word, cryptography. Joe's credentials are linked to a unique ID that is signed with a cryptographic key. When Joe needs to share his credentials, he creates a secure, private, and trusted connection with the other party. This channel is secured using the credentials associated with each party's DID. Joe can also request the deletion of a shared credential or revoke access to any third party that currently has access to his personal data store at any time. Joe is now in full control of his digital identity. No more lengthy forms. Joe can now sign up for insurance or a host of other digital services with just a single click that uniquely only his new digital ID can provide. And that's why Atala is one of the keys to economic identity across the whole of Africa.
An autonomous, decentralized network, operating at low cost, connecting and empowering communities, financed by stake pools. You think I'm talking about Cardano, right? No, I'm talking about mobile. Now, this film coming up is a little bit special, and we're very excited about this project, a brand new partnership which we're announcing today on our Africa special. Before you can bank the unbanked, you need to connect the unconnected. And with a unique digital identity, you can open up economic opportunities never before possible. Forget DeFi, and welcome to RealFi.
Today, we're showcasing another important partnership. World Mobile's pioneering mobile network is bringing remote African regions online for the first time in an affordable, sustainable, and profitable way. Last week, I spent a few days in Zanzibar and Tanzania with the team from World Mobile to find out more.
Half the world can't speak to the other half. Half the world can't communicate. This is unacceptable.
Our vision was to connect as many people as possible. We're saying we want to go after the unconnected, and it is actually feasible.
You're going to see the potential of Africa unlocked with the average age of 19.7 years old. This is going to change the face of the planet as we know today. It's beyond the butterfly effect. This is the effect of connection, the effect of connectivity.
Connectivity is the primary asset. This is something that can be realized and in a very short period of time.
A network built by the people, for the people. If you're not connected, you're just a number.
Everybody should have access to the internet. You know, it's for everybody. It is a fundamental human right, the right to access.
Same basic elements that used to be food, water, and air, and now power, connectivity, and identity.
Your right to live your life the best way you can. COVID-19 literally proved to the world that having access to the internet can keep the world going on and on and on. Now, why did some people in this world have access to keep their lives going and others were just confined to not having access to that? And that's just not fair.
Legacy infrastructure has left half the world offline. There's 1,000 mobile network operators serving 5.5 billion people. There's 0 mobile network operators serving the other half of the world. In the quest for connectivity, the quest for a faster internet connection, we've sold our rights. This is going to be rebooted in Africa. This is a network that gives people self-data governance, gives people economic freedom of choice, and ultimately at least giving people back their dignity, something that we don't have anymore.
We have 3 bars instead of 1. People from other villages are visiting us.
It's your connection that's bad.
I'm just on my way to Bole Airport, on my way out to see the World Mobile team in Zanzibar, which will be their first rollout location this year, see what they've achieved in the last 2 years.
There's a lot of ambition in trying to turn Zanzibar into the hub. Sure. As it was before, 200+ years ago, it was the hub where everything came here and then was distributed onto the mainland. Or from the mainland, everything came to Zanzibar and then it went out to the world. This is now strategically positioned to be able to capture that particular market that is coming.
So all the equipment you're bringing in, is it coming in through this port?
A lot of the network equipment will just come in and we'll be deploying it starting in Stone Town.
And it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. You know?
So you'll literally just put these repeaters, right, and cover this quite densely residential area, and anyone that's within this region will just be able to have a Wi-Fi network, well mobile, where they get faster data at cheaper prices.
Yes. The objective is very simple. So other than putting on the massive MNO type towers, it'll be something as simple as that. A pole with one device that picks up the signal, a cable will run into the Wi-Fi repeaters, and the Wi-Fi repeaters will throw out the mesh signal. The fiber lines are there. The technology exists. It's just we need the people to have access to it. And we as World Mobile are going to give these people the access. And
another really important part of this is you can see all of this existing infrastructure. You can see guys invested in solar, guys invested in their own ISP equipment. These are all people we can leverage for the shared economy. So we can use their infrastructure for our point-to-point, our TV white space, and they can actually benefit from that. So we are providing opportunities to them that they may not have even thought about before. Gone are the days where connectivity is with these big, powerful MNOs. Now it's with the people.
We're going to a school where they've been deploying some infrastructure to provide connectivity for the school. So we're going to go and look at what they've delivered there. This school is, I think, the first pilot site for World Mobile in Zanzibar. We have an interview scheduled with Mickey, the CEO of World Mobile. We needed some internet. They've installed one of these solar-powered Wi-Fi drop-off points across the school, giving them internet access, which wasn't here before. So yeah, we're just gonna use their internet to do a quick interview with Mickey, and then we'll be on our way. Mickey Watkins, how are you doing?
John O'Connor, I'm very good. How are you? Lovely to see you.
Fantastic to see you too. So do you recognize where we're at, where I'm shooting from?
I do. It looks like the school.
It is.
How's the internet?
The internet's pretty great. I mean, I think we're on about 15 megabits a second right now, which is more than I get at home anyway.
I'm happy for you.
Maybe in your own words, you can tell us a little bit more about your vision for World Mobile and why you're trying to do what you're trying to do.
My motivation is to deliver a business model that nobody has yet via a sharing economy that is the solution to connecting the unconnected.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your view of what a sharing economy means in regards to World Mobile.
The sharing economy to us is everything. We believe that the reason that half the world is unconnected is due to the fact that responsibility hasn't been shared.
So maybe we can dig in a little deeper into exactly how the technology works.
We're using free space optics, we're using blimps, balloons, helikites. We're using all types of technology in order to be able to pick up backhaul from the sea, from existing infrastructure, and deliver it to the people on the ground at half the price and double the speed.
But what attracted you guys to pick Input Output as a partner and build on our technology?
Banking the unbanked. That's to put it into a short phrase. I saw what you and Charles were doing. I saw what IOHK stand for, and it was an obvious choice. There was nobody else in the space that had the same vision as you, and it matched ours. And to bank the unbanked, you need to connect the unconnected. Together, it's a perfectly symbiotic relationship.
So, on the subject of banking the unbanked, I think one of the biggest opportunities we have in our partnership is to be able to start moving from what crypto has done in DeFi towards more what we're calling RealFi.
You just said it. This is not just DeFi. This is RealFi. By providing people with the connectivity, by providing them with identity, we're actually going to see the real intention behind blockchain. We're going to see people sitting the other side of the world being able to fund via staking pools the ability to roll out whole countries, continents. We're going to see people being able to take loans on the other side of the world. This is it. This is the bridging. This is the digital divide. This is where we change everything together.
Mickey, it's been super great to catch up.
John, it's been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to change the world with you. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
Take care, Mickey. Ciao. So we've got this model, right, of being able to expand into potentially rural areas which have been left out by traditional telcos. And we'd like to make sure that people are incentivized to expand this network. Explain how this would work to me when we're talking about giving lower cost internet access to those regions which have been underserved. And explain also how this fits in with the solar model which you guys have talked about.
Solar is just a way to create energy where there's no grid. You need a battery, you need a solar power, and you work backwards from there. So we know that our node is consuming very little power. I mean, 20, maybe 50 watts at the peak of usage. So that you really don't need a lot of energy.
New light, WC power. One outside here, one actually in the store. See that? Like daytime. Almost every single major highway in Zanzibar has a fiber network deployed on it. So that's one. We can do point-to-point, which is like two devices talking off towers. Do free space optics, TV white space, you can do normal free band. These are all within the realms of regulation. But then you have this element of the villages or the places where there's no fiber. Point-to-point becomes next to impossible, but the nearest tower is probably like 50, 60 miles away. So you have VSAT. That VSAT is talking back to our hub. Technology that you deploy is just cheaper.
Morning, gents. How are you all doing?
Good morning, John. I'm good.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see you. It's been a while.
John, very nice to see you again. I'm very excited and looking forward to being part of this Africa special.
All right, thanks, guys. So, Chris, maybe you can talk to us about some of the challenges which telcos have to face when operating within a government framework.
One of the many advantages of the World Mobile model is that it operates to some degree autonomously and independent of central government. And central government in some of the jurisdictions we're talking about has degrees of corruption in all or part of it. And therefore, anything which is centrally driven and top down is susceptible to those kinds of issues. World Mobile, since it operates using frequencies which are not licensed centrally and using demand which is generated at a local level, is to some extent insulated from those kinds of pressures.
Charles, how do we bridge this divide to drive further inclusivity across our societies in Africa?
We need to have inclusivity in terms of communication, both for urban and rural areas.
What impact will that have in terms of economic development?
Much of our economy, much of our social lives, much of our economic lives now depends on digital connectivity. And for those people in Africa, they're missing out, and they're increasingly being subjected to a digital divide between those who have connectivity and those who don't.
What would be the specific key benefits from connecting these unconnected populations?
Definitely financial inclusion. I think access to various types of government services. With digital technology and the digitization of land records and other government things, you could access that from your phone sitting in your village. Then you could then go to a microfinance person to borrow money, to buy crops, all kinds of things like that.
Charles, can you add to that?
We must be able to bring cost-effective communication so that in the end, it's not a question of commercial issues, it's a question of people being included and people being in one society to communicate and relate to each other.
How important is local internet infrastructure in driving that?
Some person sitting in office in Silicon Valley has no idea about the needs of somebody in a village in Kenya or Botswana. And so you need to have that local innovation to get all the real benefits of the digital economy.
So Chris, is there anything else you'd like to add?
What I really like about the World Mobile model is that it's bottom-up, it's demand-driven, it's demand-led. So that where there are people who need and want the service, that is where World Mobile plans to be, which is a very different way of looking at it from the classic MNO model.
Charles, Andrew, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time. This was super interesting and very informative.
We're going now to meet the Minister of Education.
We're just hoping he's going to be interested in the same product that we did in Ethiopia. We're doing 5 million ICTs with the Ministry of Education there, so who knows?
Today, we want to probably visit his campus, see the labs, the facilities, focus on the ICT guys and see what capabilities they have and how we, one way or another, can participate in the enhancement of the education system. Yeah, there you go. Just come in.
I think something which would be very interesting as a partnership would be for the university to issue digital degree certificates on our blockchain.
Blockchain is a new thing to us. I mean, one day we'll see Zanzibar, they're talking about blockchain, you'll be the first one.
We really want to make sure that it's not just training, that there's like an actual practical component to it. So as these guys are providing the connectivity, we would like there to be a Zanzibarian contingent that can basically program applications for their product, right? Yeah. And this is where the idea of a lab comes in, right? You've got a sustainable model for it. So it's not a one-off course, it happens every 6 months or it happens every year. These things aren't easy to do, they're expensive, they take a lot of time.
Because we come with ideas, but we need to grow with that ideas. Then we can make communication with you to help us, how we can adopt that blockchain technologies to our curriculum also, I mean, through the universities.
I think it's better to discuss the modality, how we are going about. Definitely we need to have tight collaboration with us, maybe MOU or whatever.
It's definitely something that we'd be happy to discuss.
Actually, we are having that problem using blended learning in our teaching, but it's really hard because the internet cost is somehow high and some of the students cannot really afford to to pay. For example, we are using mobile network operators bundles, but for us, of course, for most of the lecturers can afford, but for the students, it's
extra cost, right?
Yeah, extra. Yeah. It happens sometimes that students are not able to do the online work,
online courses, lectures, videos,
yeah.
exercises.
Yeah, because of the connectivity.
This is the first problem.
Yeah, it's a very huge.
And it's the biggest opportunity as well.
Yeah.
We can really improve, make things nicer.
As a lawyer and as a representative of the people, I think it's important that everybody has access to information, and connectivity fits in perfectly with that. I'm a bridge between the government and the people. So whatever decisions have been made by the government, queries, then I take them to the other side, and then whatever it is. I represent women and children. A lot of times you have women that have either issues or things that they're already doing, productions that they're already doing, but nobody knows about these things.
Connectivity allows other women to inspire the women to get connected, learn what our other women are doing, and also getting to know what they can also learn based on what other women are doing.
When I was starting my business, I learned everything that I learned online. I reached out to other people that were making similar products. That's how I found out my information and how I got to make chocolate as I do today. So connectivity to me is priceless.
Having access to loan and these others will be a lot easier on your device where you are. You don't have to actually move from one area to the next.
And that's the perfect synergy between bringing the connectivity to a school and helping them create this lab that we're talking about.
Yes.
So imagine now they don't have to go all the way to Dar es Salaam from, Kigoma or something.
Yes.
They can go to the local school, and that lab should have all the tools to allow them to do things like get meter, pay tax, apply for any government license that anybody needs to do some work.
Yes. As any other person, to have information is power. To be connected to other people, to be connected to the world, not just where you are or people you know. It's priceless.
From the perspective of the consumer, they're always going to get a price which matches the best that any of the MNOs will be able to offer. But as you guys roll out this infrastructure, it will just get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. What we mean when we say we're trying to disrupt finance, it's really over three key areas, right? The first is identity. The second is going to be transfer of value or payments, right? And then the last area is going to be the programmability of that, of contracts.
When it comes to identity, the typical Zanzibari would have two IDs, right? But then you still have the problem of the identity. And it comes in a more recent finding from the state, where there's always an issue of ghost workers. Ghost workers are when civil service is paying salaries to people that don't exist. And this happens month in, month out, year in, year out. It's an ever-going problem. I think it's not just a Zanzibari problem or a Tanzanian problem. It's more or less a problem in a lot of African countries. So having a digital identity would solve that particular problem once and for all. Anything that will solve that challenge will create a lot of change in the environment.
So I know that some of the things that we've talked about is that, privacy is a big concern for you guys, and it's one of the reasons why the project started. So within this example, each subscriber will have an identity which they can choose to share or choose not to share. So as they build up a credit history from taking small loans with you guys, they have the ability to essentially export this credit history and use it in an authenticated and validated fashion with any one of a number of different credit providers.
This journey's come a long way, and I think the power and the vision is that this is a problem worth solving together.
the internet is, I think, one of the most addictive things that mankind has ever created for themselves. The more you have access to it, the more you will use it, the more you would use it for what works for you. It's every human's right to have access to connectivity that allows them to be whatever it is that they need to be.
I get literally hundreds of these like cold emails on LinkedIn or whatever. But when I saw, you know, quite like a nascent idea from you guys about a scalable economic model to be able to deliver internet and connectivity cheaper than any of the current MNOs and Airtels and MTNs, that's exciting, right? All of you guys have such in-depth experience and knowledge about the industry. You know, you with your batteries supplying the telco towers here, you guys with minutes across the world, you know, you RJ with actual experience of having a license in Tanzania and doing this kind of stuff before. You guys have come up with something innovative, and that spoke to me.
How this whole thing works, again, it's a combination of the three different elements. The element of the blockchain, the element of the power, and the element of the connectivity. Each one of those segments independently can match anything that we can be put against in the world.
One of the things which really attracted me to your project was that you'd understood a truth about the telecoms industry and were trying to solve this one particular problem. And I could see how blockchain would enable that to maybe go to the next level.
The only thing I would say, it's more fundamental. It's not like we fixed a problem in telecom. We found a problem in humanity, in civilization, where half of the world has been left offline and they don't have any opportunity to speak to the other half of the world. We've taken off-the-shelf products that are readily available. The big companies like Microsoft, Facebook, Google, and others have invested billions of dollars in developing equipment that really works, that can be deployed at a fraction of the cost that MNOs are using their business models to connect people with. And we're taking the last mile connectivity to the people that really need it and unlocking them and allowing them to connect up to the rest of the world.
I think you've basically wrapped up the whole few days and everything. Yeah.
This is a reboot of the system. This is not a revolution. Connecting the unconnected is the first step. Second step is banking the unbanked. This is much bigger than the existing $3 trillion industry.
What you have to understand is the business is not internet connectivity, nor is it the access. The business is what you do once everybody's got this access.
So in order to bank the unbanked, of which there's 3 billion people, first you need to connect the unconnected, and then you need to give them digital ID. Once you've given them digital ID, then you can begin to offer them financial services.
This is where the innovation will come in.
Then you'll see explosive growth on the African continent and beyond.
Once you sow the seed, it will grow exponentially itself.
We did this because we can. We did this because we have to. We did this because half the world has been left offline.
We know what works. We know how to do it.
The winner will be the people on the ground. And that's why the sharing economy is the incentive that we need to connect the unconnected.
It's your choice to do what you want to do with it.
This is the biggest business opportunity, whilst also solving one of the biggest problems in history.
So there you have it, a new telecoms company in Tanzania in partnership with World Mobile. 100,000 subscribers in Zanzibar by the end of the year, offering data twice as fast at half the price. Not only will every subscriber have an identity issued on Atala Prism on Cardano, but we'll also be introducing the first real Fi loans by the end of the year. Loans provided by Cardano Liquidity, providing real economic value to real people. To build valuable solutions, you need to understand the challenges intuitively with local teams and expertise. The announcements we're making this week are the result of years of work on the ground in Ethiopia and across numerous African nations. We're expanding our team now in Addis, building out our local teams to accelerate the implementation work. We're also investing in local partnerships via our new tech hub in Addis. Now, many of you will be familiar with Ben Goertzel from our previous Cardano 360 shows, a good friend of ours and a pioneer at the intersection of artificial intelligence and blockchain. We're currently working closely with Ben to bring the AGI token to Cardano within our ERC20 converter program to port Ethereum tokens to Cardano. Now, more on that in next month's show. But meanwhile, here he is with an update about our work together in Africa with ICOG Labs and why he feels Africa has the potential to become a world leader in AI and advanced robotics.
Ben Goertzel here. I've been doing AI and robotics work in Africa, mainly in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, since 2014, when I co-founded, together with Sander Olsen and Getahun Mekuria, a company called IOHK Labs, which is Ethiopia's first AI and robotics startup. So together with the amazing, brilliant engineers at IOHK in Addis, I've been involved in leveraging Ethiopian AI, robotics, and software talent to build systems and solve problems deployed all over the world. I mean, the ICOG team helped build some of the AI and computer vision behind the Sophia robot. They helped develop some of the infrastructure and dApps on the SingularityNet platform. And we've also been working on various projects aimed at using AI and robotics to help improve aspects of Ethiopian economy. So I've been doing AI stuff in Ethiopia for a while, since before I founded SingularityNet. I then pulled the ICOG team into SingularityNet to help with everything we're doing. And when I met Charles Hoskinson for the first time at a conference in Hong Kong, I was amazed to find, among our many other important commonalities, we were both doing advanced technology work, not just in Africa, but in Ethiopia, not just in Ethiopia, but in Addis Ababa. And that was very cool. It was one of the many similarities between us. We were both seeing some quite overlapping opportunities there. And of course, now things are far more advanced on the Cardano side, on the SingularityNet side, and in the AI and blockchain ecosystems altogether. What we're doing in Africa with SingularityNet has advanced. What Cardano is doing in Africa has advanced since that time Charles and I first met. And now it's exciting that, IOHK, Cardano, and SingularityNet, we're all working together quite closely on various Africa opportunities. And I think it's not an entire coincidence that Charles and I have both been very interested for a long time in rolling out advanced technologies in Africa. I think there's incredible opportunity there. There's so many young people there, so many students, so many brilliant young students with a lot of energy and knowledge, looking to change and improve the world. There are astounding opportunities for technology leapfrogging in Africa, for filling the need in Africa by building advanced systems using technologies like AI and blockchain that are not rolled out that widely in the developed world. So by filling Africa's needs using advanced technologies developed by African technologists and scientists in conjunction with IOHK and SingularityNet, I mean, we can in some ways see Africa advance faster, and in some ways maybe even take the lead over the developed world. And the digital ID initiative being pursued now by IOHK and Cardano, and together with Ethiopian government, is one example of that. Some things SingularityNet has done with using machine learning for crop disease diagnosis and using humanoid robots in education in Ethiopia. These are other examples of using advanced technology to help African systems leapfrog above many things you see in the developed world. But these examples are very important, very exciting, and they just scratch the surface of what's possible. One exciting development on the more concrete level is SingularityNet and ICOG Labs Ethiopian AI team. The group of people I've been working with for quite some time now are now sharing an office space with IOHK's Ethiopian team. So I think this is going to allow us to combine and cross-pollinate our efforts even better. And I'm extremely psyched to be working together with Charles and with the whole Cardano and IOHK team, and with the Ethiopian software and AI team at ICOG and SingularityNet that I've been working with for years. I mean, I think working together with these guys to both build the future of Africa on an advanced technology basis using AI, blockchain, and other tools, and leveraging the inventiveness and brilliance of young African scientists and technologists to help advance us faster toward singularity everywhere. I would say, in many ways, Africa is especially exciting, both because of the opportunities there and the level of ingenuity that you see in some of the engineers and scientists there. I think, in many ways goes beyond what you find anywhere else. I mean, the complexity and in some cases adversity of the African environment breeds an inventive and energetic spirit, which is really special. I've seen this mostly in Ethiopia, but it's not just Ethiopia. I mean, there's this energy and inventiveness and youthful vigor across Africa, and I think to the extent we can leverage this, we can use AI, blockchain, and other technologies to better transform Africa as well as everywhere else.
On the ground, partnerships are key to building successful business that addresses local needs, and nowhere more so than in Africa. So we've partnered with ICEADDIS, experts in innovation in Africa, and talked to Markos Lemma, based in Ethiopia's capital, about our goal of building an innovation network across the continent.
One of the things we really value is like our relationship and network within the African continent. We're a very Pan-African company. So like, being the Ethiopian company, and it goes beyond Ethiopia because we actually believe in the narration of the new narration of Africa, and the startup, the catalyst of its growth and, mobile technology and different technologies actually being leapfrogging throughout the continent. When we started back in 2011, there are only few hubs and incubators are existing in the continent. And now it's mushrooming. Now currently we're planning to do in 5 countries, which will extend into 25 African countries. And we, as a target group, we have 3 different target groups. So the developers are one, and the second thing is the entrepreneurs and the startups, and also the policymakers, because actually this needs to be organized as one community. The first time, when we actually start this conversation with IOHK about the partnership, it comes very natural, because we have similar value about driving innovation and technology in African continent, and then that within community-oriented approach. So it's not really top-down approach, but really trying to work within the grassroots community of technology experts and researchers and startups. There's a very strong technical team from IOHK to help build tech products. Oftentimes we talk about Silicon Valley, right? It's just a collection of companies in one place. And I think no one really doubt about the value of having like-minded people who are actually doers, not really talkers, bring them together. They actually always create something meaningful. A lot of this technological adaptation requires a lot of engagement from the communities. The countries that you mentioned, in Nigeria, in Kenya, here in Ethiopia, and all the different countries that actually we plan to do. One of the basic things we need to do is where do we get the community leaders who's gonna push technology forward, co-create new ideas, contextual ideas within these countries. So we want to actually foster collaboration with community members. So we're going to work with community leaders from the tech community and ambassadors to launch new events and activities, either through IOHK Cardano campuses within these countries, or partnering with innovation hubs and incubators like ourselves, and kick off different meetups and events and informal networking opportunities. In Ethiopia now with ICOG Lab and IOHK and ICEADDIS, we're coming together as in one campus, so that we can create that kind of feeling that there is a larger community that can engage, and then we can share resources. We can co-launch networking activities, and hopefully, like also like there are international and local visitors are coming, they can actually get access to all those 3 companies in one place instead of like disjointed locations. ICEADDIS, like we're gonna plan meetups and events in each these communities, and mostly like in the capital cities, but also like the second tier cities, to kick off the first activities, and hopefully a lot of these activities will be like self-funded, self-sufficient in the long term, so that they can actually drive activities within their environment. So this is actually like our plan to do this year, already starting from this year, and then expanding to the 25 countries in the upcoming years.
So there it is, a community-led approach to train and onboard developers to Cardano in 5 and ultimately 25 countries across the continent. Building government partnerships and local commercial collaborations are central to our strategy across the continent. But it's the support and hard work of the African community which really inspires us and drives us forward, seeing real people running the network and building on Cardano. We have a passionate and growing Cardano community in Africa, and we reached out to some of them before the show so we could introduce a few of them to you. Now, we don't have time for everybody to say hello today, but check out our new Africa site after the show and in the weeks ahead, where we'll be profiling this growing part of our community in Africa. Plus some of the mission-driven pools from the diaspora doing great work, like WEQNT out of the Netherlands, but working in Kenya, Uganda, Southern Sudan to support rural communities, and Kind, who you met earlier. We'll also meet in this next clip the crew from WADA, our Project Catalyst innovation programme, and last but not least, hear from the unstoppable Dor Garbash about our dedicated challenge to grow Africa, grow Cardano.
Hey, what's up guys? This is Joshua Akpan from Proof of Africa, ABCD and Liquid, and we are
Cardano Community Port Harcourt. I'm April from Zoe Pool.
I'm Banigo from Red Token.
Destiny from Zoe Pool.
I'm Smart from Bobcats.
And we are very excited about Cardano. In 2017, I found out about Bitcoin and blockchain technology. And in 2018, I quickly discovered Cardano. I got very intrigued about Cardano because I saw the potential it holds, mostly because I live in Africa and I could see the things that can actually be onboarded on Cardano. Example is land registry, right, which is a huge problem in Africa, especially where I stay. And we have committed ourselves to educate people, and this effort is actually sponsored by our stake pools and also partnering with very, very exciting people like WADA, who is committed in education and also implementation of these ideas in Africa. And we are all going for number 1.
Hi everyone, my name is Reese and I am the owner-operator of Neat Stake Pool. I'm a systems engineer from Cape Town, South Africa. And my journey with Cardano started a couple of years ago when I came across an article on a website that described a bold and ambitious project that seek to solve some of the biggest problems in the world. That article resonated with me, and 2 years down the line, I'm now the operator of a Cardano stake pool. And it's because of the ambition and determination of Charles Hoskinson and his team to really make a difference in the world. And that's essentially why Neat Stake Pool exists, to be a part of that journey. So thank you IOHK for all the work that you do and all those involved. And thank you for this opportunity. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Conrad and we work for Axionosis and we run the Axionosis Stake Pool. As you can see, it's warm and sunny here even though winter is lurking. We are based in a city called Pretoria, South Africa, right at the southern tip of the big continent. Most of the company's employees invest in crypto and this interest is spreading. We just had to get involved. Cardano's whole philosophy of changing the world for the better and bringing more fairness and equality for everyone resonated with us, and we have been fans ever since.
Hi, I'm Chris. Our main aim is to support the Cardano network in Africa by running a public stake. We believe in the potential of blockchain and specifically that the Cardano network will improve the world's financial systems. So we want to keep contributing, and we will keep our node up and running.
Comfort here. I'm based in Richards Bay on the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal. We want to provide solutions using Cardano, and our first use case will be the ability to upload COVID-19 vaccination certificates to the blockchain for the citizens of Zimbabwe. That's it from Explosives.
Hello, Cardano community. This is April from Zoe Politica ZOE. I'm from Nigeria and currently based in Port Harcourt City. I got to know about the Cardano community in Port Harcourt through my friend Joshua, who happens to be the Nigerian ambassador of Cardano. And I'm currently the only female stakepool operator here in Africa. Zoepool is a place where women in blockchain are cherished, and we seek to bring blockchain education down here in Africa, especially for women, seeing that the number of participation of women is really daunting. And I believe strongly that Cardano was built for Africa, and it can liberate a lot of Africans from a centralized government to a decentralized one. Thank you.
Hi everyone. My name is Jacob Lete and I operate Smiles on Africa Stake Pool. I'm from West Africa and the Greater Accra region of Ghana. I got involved with Cardano way back in 2017-2018, where I came across Charles Whiteboard video where he talked about the generations of blockchain, and ever since that, I've been a part of the Cardano community. It is my hope and dream to provide as many health insurance to deprived children in the rural communities with the rewards from Smile. I believe Cardano has more to offer with the current mobile money fraud going on across the continent and land registration issues. I hope the government of the Republic of Ghana adopts it for the greater good. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Welcome to WADA, the West African Decentralized Alliance, connecting West African developers and entrepreneurs to the Cardano ecosystem. We do this through infrastructure and capacity building, education, outreach, dApp creation, and by forming a network of hubs through relationships on the African continent and in the diaspora. WADA is by the community, for the community. And we are here today because of the immense community support given us. As Cardano achieves its milestones in Africa, remember that WADA is open for business, and we are rapidly scaling to embrace and leverage the growth opportunities opening up through our work on the ground and through our partnerships, all to expand Cardano's market in Africa and even more. Our hubs are currently active in Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, and DRC, and we are adding more using our sustainability model. We will continue to count on you, Cardano community. We add to multiply.
Yes, we add to multiply.
Hi everybody, my name is Dor Garbash and I'm the product manager for Project Catalyst. Today I wanted to talk to you about the project, especially for you new folks that might not have heard about it. So Project Catalyst has become in the last 6 months the largest decentralized innovation fund in the world. So in Fund 3, we had more than 20,000 unique wallets registered to vote, and around 3.5 billion ADA that has voted. We have 21,000 people participating in ID scale, so tens of thousands of people working together and collaborating to build and decide on the best proposals to promote Cardano. And we can see that all our communication channels are filled with activity. Our Discord channel, I think, has almost 2,000 users. All our announcement channels in Telegram, they're just surpassed 4,000 users. We are by far the largest and most active decentralized innovation fund in the planet. But today I want to focus on one of our most interesting challenges, which is the Grow Cardano, Grow Africa challenge. This has been a challenge that's actually been voted in by the community itself. It controls $250,000 in ADA, and it's going to grow and grow over the course of the year. As you just seen from the previous videos, there's already a lot of traction with different types of initiatives and projects that are centered around Africa. This is a very high-growing, high-impact, exciting venue. Not only there's the funding within the Catalyst project that focused on Africa, but there's already an amazing, enthusiastic group of community leaders, some of them based in Africa, that you can already interact with and support as they go around making transformational changes. The main question this challenge is asking is, how do we seed and grow Cardano in Africa? Okay, so what we're looking for is technologies and applications and programs and all sorts of ideas that would help us bring Cardano to Africa, not only in an impactful way, but also in a collaborative way, in an inclusive way, in such a way that there's a real partnership with the people on the ground to build the best solutions. And what's really beautiful about this is that this is not a top-down project. This has been voted in by the community. The proposers could be you, could be anybody that has the right idea and the right skills to address this challenge effectively. We have high hopes. We actually have amazing responses so far. We have already 32 proposals that have been submitted to this challenge. So there's already a lot of competition and energy about how we are getting this, how to solve this challenge. So we really invite you to come and engage. The way to do is you go to cardano.idiscal.com, you create an account there. You will see a list of all the challenges. You can click on the challenge, the Africa Challenge, read about all the proposals, get informed, and we will contact you with details about how to register to vote and all sorts of ways you can contribute and bring value. So I just wanted to add another note why I'm personally so excited about the Africa Challenge. This challenge was not just created in a day. Okay, this has been months and months of work by the community to make this a reality. It all started in Fund 3, happening several months ago, and when there were around 20 different challenges competing for funding. And the community said in a very strong, unified vote that our focus, the way we want the Cardano treasury to be spent, is to address this challenge. This is the collective effort of tens of thousands of people, billions of ADA in voting power that voted yes to this challenge, that said this is what we want to do together. And this just demonstrates not just the power of the community, not just the fact that we have controlling a treasury of $500 million, but also where our hearts are. The mission of Cardano and this challenge converge. And now it's all happening. The challenge started, the 32 proposals, and now it's up to you to decide which ones are we going to fund. I wish you all the best, not only by choosing, but also supporting all the proposing teams and all the existing funding teams that are working together to make our vision a reality.
Since we launched staking in July last year, Cardano has grown and matured to be the leading proof-of-stake network in the world. Alongside a vibrant network of independent stake pools, the protocol has also driven a new non-profit paradigm. Nearly $500 million worth of ADA is currently delegated to mission-driven pools, generating rewards for ADA holders, but also supporting great causes. Here's Eva Oberholzer and the Cardano Foundation team to tell us more about how this exciting and inspiring new area is developing from new charity partnerships, from Save the Children to payment gateways with our partners COTI.
5 million students on Cardano. This truly is a sign for blockchain becoming of age. Very warm welcome from the Cardano Foundation. My name is Eva. I'm the Chief Growth Officer, and I'm thrilled to be here with you and share some exciting news. Since the launch of the Shelly mainnet last year and the introduction of proof-of-stake delegation mechanisms, Our stateful operators not only have taken over the production of all the blocks, they've also introduced new business model, which actually connects blockchain to sustainable finance and to donations. Some of you might have seen our latest press release. We've announced that over 10,000 delegators, which means people that hold ADA, have delegated over $500 million worth of ADA to mission-driven state pools. This means that Cardano allows ADA holders, on the one hand, to earn rewards while investing in a good cause. And at the same time, it allows charity organizations to have a new source of income and process payments within the project and cross-border more easily and transparently. What better way is there to exemplify the community's pioneering spirit and our loyalty towards our mission? At the Cardano Foundation, our mission is to make Cardano accessible to a broader audience and to drive adoption. To do this, we work with organizations and projects. We educate them and we help them with critical infrastructure or with technical integrations. I'm excited to announce that the Cardano Foundation will be working together with Save the Children in Africa and enable donations to empower communities in East Africa based on blockchain. Elliot, Jeremy, and I sat together with their team in Africa and with other partners to explore this huge partnership and explain a bit more in detail what it's all about. We are delighted to be joined today by some very special guests, several members of Save the Children and Kind State Pool, Cedric. Also joining me today is Elliot Hill, a valued member of our communications team at the Cardano Foundation. I'll now hand over to Eleanor Harsel, Director of Program Development and Quality at Save the Children. Eleanor, would you please introduce yourself and your team members, as well as telling us a little about where you're located and what you're currently working on, what your mission is in Africa?
So I'm Eleanor. I'm the Director of Program Development and Quality for Save the Children's Rwanda and Burundi Country Office. And I'm joined by my colleagues James, Kathy, and Odette.
Hi everyone, my name is James Rayner. I'm the Head of Corporate and Philanthropic Partnerships for Save the Children's East and Southern Africa Regional Office.
Hi, I'm Kathy Uwimana, working at Save the Children in Rwanda, based in Kigali, and I work there as the Kumwe Hub Manager.
My name is Odette Nambara, and I am the Communication and Advocacy Manager at Save the Children Rwanda and Burundi Country Office.
Save the Children is the world's largest independent organization for children. We were founded over 100 years ago, and we work in more than 100 countries around the world. Our team here today is based in East and Southern Africa, most of us based in Rwanda. Globally, Save the Children's mission is to inspire breakthroughs in the way the world treats children. We work across 3 breakthroughs: survive, protect, and learn, with the mission that every child survives, that every child is able to benefit from basic education, and children are protected from all forms of violence. Our work in Rwanda in particular is a little bit special and different these days, and that we're trying a number of new approaches, looking at how we can work with the private sector with different sources of funding to achieve some of those same breakthroughs, but using different means, different kinds of partnerships than we traditionally have had with governments and donors, and different kinds of donors to get them involved in changing the way the world treats children.
Thanks everyone, and it's really nice that so many of you could be here today. It's really interesting to hear more about your missions in Africa, and I'm going to go ahead and ask the question that's on everyone's lips, which is, why is accepting digital assets important to Save the Children? And how do you think that Cardano and the blockchain space in general could align and help you deliver on your missions?
Thanks, Elliot. It's a great question, and actually it's one that we've really started to shift our focus to at the moment. Blockchain in particular is really exciting. We've spoken about things like refugees. When they cross a border, often their identity, their educational record, whatever it might be, is completely lost. So it just makes a horrendous situation even worse, because it's really hard to kind of start again. Blockchain is a great example of something that we could leverage to support that work and give people a kind of a digital identity for their education, for whatever else it might be, to make kind of starting again a lot easier. That's just one example. Supply chain is another big one. We work in humanitarian crises across the region. So being able to map our supply chain with other NGOs is another exciting area. More generally and more specific for our investment work, crypto is a great way for us to kind of simplify our processes, and even things like paying some of the refugees that we're working with who are part of one of our programs. It's an exciting thing to do. So not only as a way to kind of fund our investments, blockchain and the whole kind of crypto scene is something that we're really keen to get involved with, not only to fund our work, but also to kind of unlock these exciting new ways to basically to deliver more impact for children.
Thank you, James. It's inspiring that you have chosen the Cardano ecosystem to expand your ability and to work together with us and accept donations. I'm going to introduce you to Cedric Lustra, who is one of our largest mission-driven stake pool operators. Cedric is based in France and runs Kind Stake Pool. Cedric, you have donated to Save the Children in the past through Kind Stake Pool. Can you tell us why running a mission-driven pool is important to you, and why do you consider to donate to Save the Children?
Thanks, Eva, and hello to the Cardano community. My name is Cedric. I'm a French mission-driven stake pool operator. I'm joining you today from warm, sunny Montpellier in south of France. Our pool is Kind, K-I-N-D, and the mission to turn Cardano into charitable giving is a large part of what drives our pool. Since day one, it was really important for us to use ADA for social good. This is why every month we give back $100 to our generous delegator. That's on top of their reward, and we donate a percentage of our profit to charitable organization. Alongside other stake pool operator, we have adopted a strong focus on African charitable organization and how we, as a stake pool operator, can help them meet their humanitarian goals. Africa is a really important focus for us because Africa is such a beautiful continent. It doesn't deserve the way it has been treated. Most people think Africa is a poor continent, but it's not the case. Most people in Africa may be poor, but the continent itself is one of the richest in terms of natural resources. So we strongly believe that the way to ensure that everyone has enough food, water, energy, and to change the way those resources are distributed. And we think that Cardano blockchain will be able to solve this problem. Not many people know, but in Africa, Africa pays more money to rich countries that it's receiving aid. This has to change, and it's about time to give back to African people. This is why we have looked for ways to bring Cardano and ADA cryptocurrency to charity across the continent. Last January, we've made a donation to Save the Children. At the time, it was around 660 ADA. And this month we donated over 1,100 ADA, which is around like 1,300 pounds. So you'll be able to find the details of this donation on the Cardano blockchain. Why did we choose Save the Children? They've been working in Africa for more than 60 years. They work really hard to improve the life of Africa's children through better organization, better education, healthcare, and economic opportunity.
Thank you for taking the time to join us, Cedric. So to finish off this segment, it'd be great to hear more from the Save the Children team. And, you know, if you could ask our community to do anything, or how can they participate and help Save the Children, what would it be? And I think there's some initiatives that you're particularly passionate about right now. And one of those, I think, is the Kumwe initiative. So Catherine, if I could ask you to introduce that and tell us why you're passionate about that initiative.
So the Kumwe Hub comes from this idea of togetherness, working together to achieve greater impact. Kumwe in Kinyarwanda language, our national language, comes from an expression that says "turi kumwe." It means we stay together, we are together. So the Kumwe Hub really seeks to pilot groundbreaking private sector or third partner-led innovations to keep up with the ever-changing environment we live in, promoting inclusive technologies, innovation, and partnerships. As my colleagues say, we're piloting this African-based hub here in the Rwanda office to build inclusive innovation and investment for the next generation. We also have a component that is acting like a research and development component of the hub, where we are piloting groundbreaking ideas in the context of Rwanda or East Africa. We are also trying other many solutions that are seeks to improve the lives of refugees and children and their families wherever they are, improving our reach to the most vulnerable and remote communities, but also leveraging on the rise of new technologies.
The Kumwe Hub is really our efforts to interact with the private sector and re-envision how we interact with the private sector. We, as an organization, are over 100 years old. We've been doing charity and humanitarian work for 100 years. However, the world is changing. The way we use digital technologies are changing. And there's a lot of social entrepreneurship in East Africa, East and Southern Africa, particularly in Rwanda. The government of Rwanda has really set itself up to pioneer technology and innovation, the way the government is organized, the way it prioritizes initiatives, and they're welcoming this kind of investment and innovation. There are so many startups in Rwanda. However, they don't always have access to the same populations that we as a humanitarian organization work with. And they don't always have that capital and resource to spring from a tiny little startup to actually reaching the populations that they have the potential to at scale. So we see a couple of ways of working with these startups or entrepreneurs, grants, and the other is through actually partnering in our lab to bring those innovations to scale. So we have a couple of really interesting and exciting things in our pipeline that we've started with. Some are using technology. For instance, we've been working with urban refugees to code images for artificial intelligence, so they're able to earn a decent livelihood from their phones. I think it was actually our pilot case, the average income was 10 times the average minimum wage in Rwanda. So that's an exciting innovation. So we're working with both high-tech and low-tech solutions to engage with the private sector and really transform how we as a charity or a nonprofit organization traditionally work.
Thank you so much, all of you. It's very interesting, and I guess we will have time to deep dive further into the various projects that you're working on. Also, I guess the meaning of Kumwe really fits well with Cardano, because even though we're decentralized, we very much stick together. And we are at the moment on a very, very exciting journey, and we can't wait to further explore areas to work together.
It's great to find out more about Save the Children and the initiatives they are advancing across the African continent. We are now very excited to welcome to the Cardano ecosystem, COTI. COTI are our payment geteway providers who have been busy building a dedicated way for charities to accept data donations seamlessly. We are joined today by Shahaf Bar-Geffen, CEO at COTI Pay, who will be sharing more about this solution. I'll now hand over to Jeremy to take it away with the first question. Over to you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Elliot. So, Shahaf, could you please explain to our audience what solutions COTI is building for Cardano?
Sure thing. Some background. So, in case some of you haven't heard about COTI before, so COTI is a fully encompassing finance on blockchain solution that we've designed since 2017 to meet the challenges of legacy finance, specifically inclusion, fees, latency, and so on and so forth. And we're also solving things for digital type payments, and this is what brought us to the Cardano ecosystem. We've recently received the first investment of the Cardano ecosystem fund, but our relationship goes back 2 years earlier when we've started developing AdaPay. We are now actually upgrading AdaPay for Shelly mainnet and to meet all the new needs and cool features that Cardano has on the network, including native assets and so on and so forth. So AdaPay is the first thing that we launch on the Cardano ecosystem, but definitely not the last. We are already in touch with various teams in your ecosystem, and we're building more solutions that we'll present in the future.
And what opportunities do you think this has for charities such as Save the Children and our mission-driven pools that like to take rewards and donate to charitable organizations?
First of all, I think this is amazing, and this is a great privilege that the Cardano ecosystem has. As it stands today, right, you have on one side, you have the charitable organization that needs the money. And on the other hand, you have the pool that actually wants to donate the money. And what is happening today is that this pool needs to take the ADA that he wants to donate, sell it, go back to legacy systems, send the money back to Africa so that the organization can receive it later on after some times and when fees have been deducted. And it's an indirect process. And as we know, when things are streamlined, they usually work better and people do more of it. So what we are building with AdaPay for charitable organizations is the ability for the pool to directly send ADA to the charitable organization. So what it means is that the pool, with a click of a button, can donate the money that they want to donate, and that will go directly to the organization without any fees, without any latency, and with full transparency, which is also super important when it comes to donations. People want to know that their money is going where they hoped it will go. So you have all of that, and there's actually zero disadvantages to this process. It will work better, and it will probably grow the amount of donations. On the other hand, what you also have is the ability to for merchants and people that have just received a payment with ADA through AdaPay to immediately donate some of it to organizations. And again, when the option is there and it's easy to use and people want to do the right thing, and we see $500 million waiting to do the right thing, then it becomes a real possibility, and this will grow. And again, we're just happy to be able to facilitate this.
There's $500 million worth of ADA dedicated to mission-driven pools on Cardano. So this is a huge achievement and a massive milestone for our community. And I think that when payment gateways such as COTI become widespread and mainstream, we're going to see this number grow, and the potential for ADA for charitable purposes will be much greater. So I think the next question that maybe our community are interested in finding out is just how easy will it be for a charity to accept ADA and implement a payment gateway such as COTI in the future, and what are the impacts for charities?
I'll again begin by saying that the $500 million is amazing, and I guess it comes from the alignment of the vision of Cardano, that blockchain is a social good, to the actions that people that hold ADA in the ecosystem actually take, and this is amazing. In terms of how easy it will be to implement, it will be an implementation for non-programmers, okay? When technology works well, it works like magic. You're not even aware that it's present there. It just works. And this is how we're building this. So the idea is that any charitable organization can easily implement a widget in a website or use an app, or whatever form they choose to accept a charity will be there to support it. Other than that, we'll also have a support team, of course, ready to help in case help is needed. But this will not be the issue at all. If the charities are there and the organizations are there, and we know that's the case, the implementation will be a non-brainer, and we're happy to help.
That's great to hear, and I think it's what you're doing and what you've built is crucially important for the adoption of Cardano and ADA for charitable purposes. And I hope that we can see many more synergies there in the future. And I look forward to seeing what COTI and Cardano and Save the Children can do collectively.
Thank you, and thank you for letting us be part in this amazing cause.
With its youthful entrepreneurial population, Africa has got everything to play for. Forget the old cliches, this is a young continent ready to take advantage of all the opportunity that new decentralized technologies can offer. Emurgo is one of the 3 founding organizations behind Cardano. Here's Curtis Thayer to share some further thoughts on what Africa holds.
In the technology industry, oftentimes we talk about this idea of the innovator's dilemma, right? That when you innovate a technology, oftentimes you get entrenched in that space. And if you look at the macro technology space in general, many Western countries and many Western industries are kind of entrenched in this. And this is why in Africa you see them adopting a lot of new technologies very fast. Mobile banking and mobile payment was one of those that we saw, right? So I think Africa's in an excellent place to leapfrog a lot of the systems because they don't have that old guard necessarily of technological weight that they are responsible for carrying around. The other thing about Africa is more of the macro space. So obviously Africa has a very, very young population and a population that's very excited about new technology and is very knowledgeable about it as well. Adoption of blockchain and cryptocurrency has been very high in Africa, and that's very encouraging for us. Africa has the highest rate of entrepreneurship of any continent in the world. And if you look at countries specifically in West Africa, like Ghana, for example, I believe has the highest rate of female entrepreneurship of any country anywhere. And again, this is the promise of Africa in many ways, is this idea of kind of this groundswell of people who understand technology, who are excited about changing the future, and are capable in this culture of entrepreneurship that exists there as well. I think the real opportunity in Africa doesn't lie in coming up with some like Africa-ready product and showing up and selling it there, but providing some tools and a platform to enable entrepreneurs and people who intimately understand a lot of problems that exist on the continent and understand them oh too well. Providing them with the tools and platform to build businesses themselves. In terms of the enterprise space, one area that we're really excited about is around track and trace, especially in the agriculture industry. For a few years, we've been working on a project in Indonesia around the coffee industry. And the idea there was to empower farmers who had sustainable practices and small family farms to be able to really tell their story and build trust on a global scale. Right? A lot of times with complex supply chains, there's a difficulty for large organizations to really understand and trust where their product is coming from and making sure that it's farmed sustainably and in practices that are consistent with their values, right? Now, there are many farms, of course, that do that, but how do they build that trust? And so I'm very happy to say that this project so far has been going very well. We have dozens of farms now within this ecosystem, and we've really built this transparent, immutable ecosystem in the Indonesian coffee space. Now, when you translate this to Africa, obviously Africa has a cornucopia of agricultural industries, right? Of course, coffee in East Africa is one. We also have teams on the ground in Ghana looking at the cocoa industry, which is another industry that seems every couple of years there's some issue with this supply chain, right? So while trace in the agriculture space is excellent, I think it can bring a lot of transparency and really empower a lot of small farms. I think that mission is really important. But actually the way that we at Emurgo see trace specifically is really more as a platform.
So we've shared more about all the exciting activities and partnerships we're forging and now executing on in Africa. There's lots more ahead. This is just the beginning. So maybe let's explore what that future may hold for the continent in terms of tech adoption and opportunity. We convened a panel with Charles Hoskinson, John O'Connor, Dynal Patel, and our Chief Commercial Officer, Jerry Fragiskatos, to discuss just that. And we asked award-winning Financial Times journalist David Pilling to lead the discussion.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. I'm joined by the input-output management team, many of you of whom you've already met. So let me start. I mean, maybe I could start with you, Charles. I mean, most innovations from the Industrial Revolution through to the World Wide Web, they started out in the world's most advanced economies. You're kind of turning this on its head. Your focus on blockchain is now very much in the developing world. Why is that?
Well, you always go where there's a demand for the products that you build. And if you look at government technology, you look at the way that money works, if you look at the developed society, there's not as strong of a demand for upgrading or changing in the United States or the European Union as there are in Eastern Europe, Africa, Southeast Asia, and other places. Globalization is, for the most part, working okay for the United States and okay for Europe. Now, there's a lot of issues here and there, and there's the Rust Belt in the US, and we've lost a lot of our manufacturing base. And of course, there's the Great Reset. But all things considered, we're winning, whereas some other parts of the world aren't moving as quickly. So you don't do the same thing over and over again. That's the definition of insanity. Rather, what you do is you take a step back and you say, okay, how can we compete differently? So there's a much broader set of things you can do, and everything is on the table. New voting systems, new property systems, new payment systems, new way of identifying people, new way of trading securities. A great example would be the country of Estonia. They leave the Soviet bloc, and they kind of have to start in the 90s from ground zero. And now suddenly you can vote online. Now you have a national ID card. You have a lot of digitization of the infrastructure that surpasses anything in the UK or the United States. And that's because they didn't have a legacy system to protect. So if we say, okay, where will the greatest demand for the type of technology we build be over the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, it's going to start in places like the continent of Africa, the subcontinent of India. It's going to start in places like Mongolia or the country of Georgia. It's not going to be in the United States, in California or New York or other such places. They're going to have to catch up. And you see that again and again and again, where you have startups outcompeting old stodgy monopolies. The Microsofts outcompete the IBMs, and then the next cohort comes and outcompetes the Microsoft, and so forth. It's an endless cycle of innovation.
I mean, this brings us on to the concept in the sense of leapfrogging, which is very well used in Africa. Some people, are skeptical about it. I mean, I don't know if I could bring in one of the other panelists, but do you see this potential really to leapfrog when some of the physical infrastructure, for example, the roads and the ports and the rail, are still very shoddy in many cases? Can technology really help?
Honestly, I think that's a misconception. Necessity is the mother of all invention. And if you look at, for example, internet connectivity, by 2030, the vast majority of people in Africa, well over 90%, will have high-speed internet connectivity through some means. Either it's cellular or satellite. I mean, just look at what Starlink is doing and look at the proliferation of 5G. The cost of getting people online is going down, and the technologies used to get people online don't involve trenching out millions of miles of fiber optic cable. It's just a broadcast. And then you look at these cell phones that we have, they're supercomputers, and our upgrade cycles every 24 to 36 months. And where do they go after we upgrade? They don't just disappear. They don't just go thrown into a landfill. They become accessible to a different group of people. So the innovations of today are available tomorrow. So I think within 10 years, whatever infrastructure gap may be apparent, that's going to be closed. And the cost of doing things always falls. Once you have that baseline of infrastructure, in the digital commons, we're all equal. We all have access to the same educational content. We all have access to the same platforms, the same payment systems, the same way of doing business. So it becomes much more competitive, and it becomes much more merit-based rather than geographic or other considerations.
I think on top of the lack of a legacy system to replace and an obvious need to actually provide these services they don't have, I think demographics also plays an important factor. So I think in the African continent, the population is by and large much younger than the Western world, and new technologies are adopted far more quickly from the newer generations. The other point I think which is important is that this is a new technology that offers new features. And so in the past, if you had an idea and a problem to solve, the pieces that were missing was getting talent to bear to solve that problem and funding. So places like Silicon Valley and these centers of innovation were the primary drivers of innovation. With the blockchain, what's happening is you're democratizing this. You're giving access to a global infrastructure that allows for social and financial inclusion on a global scale. So on the on the opportunities that we worked on in Africa, we leveraged a global team off of 4 continents, and the funding comes from the mechanism. And we also have a governance system in place that democratizes this. So anybody, anywhere that has a good idea can use this system to bring that idea to fruition, and that's unique. This was previously only the purview of the innovation centers, and now this is becoming flatter, and innovation is going to the edges, and this is going to be the final piece of the puzzle of the internet that was missing, which is the democratization of it. Not before the big companies centralized it, and access to the talent and funding, which they didn't have in the past.
Dynal, maybe I could bring you in. I mean, you've announced this blockchain deployment deal with the Ethiopian government. What exactly is the nature of this deal, and how can you convince us that this is going to be anything more than a flash in the pan?
Yeah, I mean, even before I answer your question, I actually had an interesting story to tell. So I was recently in Zambia, and I wanted to verify my birth certificate. So I went over to the birth certificate registry office, and I handed them my birth certificate and said, look, can you verify that this is authentic? And then, he looked at me, and literally from the floor to the ceiling were just stacks and stacks of birth certificates. And it's like, well, where do you start? I mean, this could take years before you're able to do so. Either you believe me, which is what I ended up doing, is just kind of stamped it and I walked away with it. So what I'm just trying to say is that Africa's really hungry for solutions. So really anything that we can give in that context to kind of help him with his job would be really beneficial. And coming back to kind of your question, the deal with Ethiopia is hugely exciting. We're the first provider in Ethiopia that will be issuing a government-endorsed ID. That's a big deal. And this is only the starting point, right? So we're working with the Ministry of Education, but we're seeing really the same level of interest across all government ministries, and the huge silos that exist across all these ministries. So imagine one ID that gives you access to all government services, and it's not just government; it's one ID that opens up the private sector as well. So suddenly your banks, your insurance companies, your telcos can leverage this government issued ID that they can verify as authentic. And what that does is, you have a reusable ID that you can use in multiple areas. And the potential for that's massive to increase efficiencies. Even, I mean, if you listen to BCG, the Australian government just digitizing ID has had an uplift of 11 billion. And if you look at what McKinsey is saying around Ethiopia, there's potential to uplift, I think, even up to 7% of GDP by introducing the type of technology we're bringing to the country.
I mean, in terms of specific applications, one thinks of things like medical records. One thinks of agricultural supply chains and verifying those. Land registration is something else. I mean, these are things that have just occurred to me. I mean, are any of these applications that you can see being rolled out, across the continent because of this technology?
So the answer is yes. The demand is already there. When I'm working with governments across the continent, there is a clear appetite to be able to roll out digital identity across a variety of government services. I would say digital identity is the one commonality across almost every single country on the continent. They have 2025, 2050 vision statements, and all of them require digital identity. So that appetite is already there. We're not doing anything particularly revolutionary here. We're servicing a demand which already exists, but just using a new and more innovative technology to be able to service that. So I think that's where it gets exciting for us. Just to reiterate, this is the first government deal which uses blockchain in any serious or meaningful way, in my particular opinion. 5 million identities issued by the Ethiopian government to the W3C standards issued on our platform. So that's why it's exciting, because this is the beginning of making identity useful. Previously, identities, you can't share them, right? So you've got this paper-based ID in Ethiopia, piece of cardboard. Even though this is a legal government identity, what can you do with it? There's no utility. What we've done is actually created an identity which can be shared across an ecosystem of partners. So even though, this current project is focused around what are my educational credentials and extensible into what do they get in my degree, eventually you're going to be able to share a single link with an employer to prove you've done what you said you've done, but also potentially with a financial provider, and be able to use this flexible and useful identity to be able to get finance or other financial services. So this is why it's exciting, because we're really at the beginning.
And Charles, you've spoken before, I know, about agricultural supply chains. I think you've done some work in Mongolia. I mean, this is interesting to me. One thinks of coffee, tea, even cobalt. How could this be? How could this technology, actually verify these supply chains?
Yeah, the most fundamental thing is first know who people are. And when you say people, you're also talking about devices. So IoT identity is a big deal. Your self-driving car has to be identified. Your drone has to be identified. And then once you have that base layer, then it's a discussion of transitions between those distinct actors. And those could be economic transitions. So whether that's a purchase, it's the movement of money. They can be other things like commodities, like the movement of coffee from one node to another node. All these things are identical. When you actually strip off the skin and the face, the bones, the muscles are the same. So this is why we enter in with identity and we get that infrastructure in place. And it's just a matter of a business and a social system at that point. So you always ask, well, what are you concerned about? What is your key driver? Is it fraud reduction or increased transparency in the supply chain? Is it verification of claims such as this was organically produced, or there's fair trade, or this is carbon negative or carbon neutral? Every marketplace is unique in its demands and the questions it asks. But once you have the right foundations, your cost of verifying these things usually goes down dramatically, in some cases over an order of magnitude. The other thing is it's universal. Once you've developed such a system, it doesn't matter if you're talking about a coffee supply chain in Java or a coffee supply chain in Costa Rica or in Ethiopia, the kinds of things you would do are reusable. So you build once, use everywhere. That's kind of the magic of software and the magic of the internet. The magic of infrastructure is that once we'd solve a very hard problem, that very hard problem became a very easy problem for everybody. And there was a reusability in that respect. So agriculture is certainly very important. We not only have stuff we've talked about in Mongolia, we also work with partners like Beef Chain in the state of Wyoming. And we even have people in the aquaponics business who come to us. We have people in the wine business who come to us. There's a Cardano wine in Napa Valley over in California, and they keep sending me cases of it, and I keep giving it away, but it's a good wine. So it's something that we do care quite a bit about. And what's very exciting is what we've done here with Prism in Ethiopia is a beginning. It's not an endpoint. It's something that will organically grow to cover more and more of the population. And then as we look to Digital Ethiopia 2025, that agenda the government has, we can have broader conversations about how do we extend what we've already constructed and deployed to cover more and more things. A final point is that a lot of the demand for these systems comes from commercial activity or from grants and subsidy. So a lot of people like saying, well, I'll invest, but I need some audit terms and conditions. I'll go ahead and give you access to this marketplace, but you have to prove certain things. So when you have these conversations, it's not just a cost center, it's usually a market opportunity center. In the case of Mongolia, for example, they have something called the Third Neighbors Policy, where Mongolia wants to start exporting agricultural goods, in this case beef, to the United States. The USDA is not going to let them do that unless they can prove certain things about that beef supply chain. So when you say, well, if we install this system, it's not just, well, spend all this money, do all this stuff to get this thing running, and then hypothetically it's going to benefit you. You're saying, directly after installing it, you now can sell into a new marketplace, and in some cases even have an existing commercial commitment, which in many cases will pay far more than the cost of the installation. And that's what's really exciting about this plan of ours as we roll out throughout the continent of Africa. We can kind of show how that escalation of market access, that reduction of cost, and that universality is going to be a cornerstone in the digitization of these economies up to 2025 and beyond.
The third neighbor there presumably being the US as opposed to Russia and China, is that right? To give Mongolia a different outlet. Yeah. I mean, a follow-up maybe for you or maybe for one of the other panelists, something else that we've spoken about in the past, that you've talked about blockchain as a trust infrastructure, I think, presumably because these transactions are public, they're held on a decentralized network. I mean, this is a continent where trust in public institutions can be low, including in governments. And it's not as though, to be fair, blockchain, cryptocurrencies especially, haven't gone through their own fair share of scandals. And yet one can see the kind of the potential for transparency here. I mean, how do you see this sort of playing out in the trust sense?
Yeah, I mean, the core of the product that we're actually launching is about enabling digital trust. So much like your physical wallet, if you open it up, you've got your ID, your driver's license, medical insurance card. Normally, you just hand these over, and the other people just trust existing systems to just verify that that's authentic. In the digital world, it's really hard to do the same, and there's a lot of issues with fraud and so on. So one of the things that we've implemented is basically through this platform is to enable the same level of trust, so people can basically treat digital credentials in much the same way as a physical credential, and be able to share it, and the person receiving it can independently verify that without needing to contact the source. So we're leveraging blockchain really for that property that it enables, and we're enabling users really to have something that they own. So all the credentials are not held by some centralized party. They're held in their mobile phone or in their encrypted personal data vault. So users have complete control and ownership, and they're not giving up their trust to another party to hold these credentials. So come what may, they've always got that in their pocket, and it's up to them to share that with people that they trust.
Yeah, and trust you can look at from one or two directions. So you can either go from bottom up or top down. So bottom up is saying you inherit your trust from your culture, from your nation, from a group that you identify with. So I'm an American. Okay, so any preconceived notion you have about people from the United States, positive or negative, if we've never met, just hearing that title, you're going to stick that on me. But trust can work in the other direction as well. So you can look at the individual and say, well, okay, he's American, but he's Charles Hoskinson, and perhaps I have a unique identity that transcends the place I come from. The magic of Prism is that it allows us to leapfrog in that we can have a direct relationship with the people of a nation state, and setting whatever the brand or preconceived notions happen to be aside and say, well, this is this person. And you can prove facts about them, their education, their life story, certain things that will allow you to say, yes, this is a reputable person. At that point, you don't need a strong reputation in the nation state to be able to conduct e-commerce, to be able to globalize, to be able to start a business. You can build a much more intimate, much more personal set. Well, collectively, if you do that for an entire economy, then bottom up, your impression of the nation state will just start reflecting the micro impressions you have of the people. I'll say, oh, I've always worked with people from there. They're always honest. They're always nice. I like that. And then suddenly the entire nation state inherits that. It's very difficult to rebrand a nation state. The great example is the country of Georgia. They, for a long time, were one of the most corrupt countries in Eastern Europe. In fact, it was so bad when you'd fly into the country, they'd give you a bribe list and tell you how much you should expect to pay to bribe various government officials. I mean, talk about like self-defeating behavior. So they, in the 1990s and the 2000s, got very aggressive at reducing government corruption, including firing their entire police force in Tbilisi. It was a remarkable effort. They went from one of the most corrupt nations to one of the least corrupt nations of all nation states, including Europe and the United States. However, there's still a latency in that perception. So when people say, I don't know about Georgia, are you sure you want to do business there? That's historically been a bad apple. And so this is another part of the magic of blockchain technologies. It helps the government disintermediate itself, in a sense, with its past. And it say, okay, well, I understand it used to work that way, but because it now works in this new system, which is different from us, and it's global by design, and it's immutable, now you can trust that even if you don't trust our prior reputation and brand. And I think a combination of these two things will bridge that trust gap. And this, by the way, is not exclusive in Africa or Eastern Europe. It's also in the United States. We just had a very traumatic election in 2020. And if you poll people in the United States, about half of my country, because of that election, has very strong doubts about the safety, security, fidelity, and trustworthiness of the U.S. election system. Now, it's not an evidence thing, it's a systems thing. No matter what evidence you show and say, no, it was a fair election, still 20, 30% are probably going to believe it was a fraudulent election. The only way they're going to change that belief set is through a new system, a different way of voting, a different way of audit and oversight, and then they can set the past aside. So as we look to restoring trust or building new trust in other nation states, this is something actually we can use at home, whether it be for vaccine development or it be for voting, it be for the fair distribution of tax dollars or government contracts. And what's so cool is it can work on both sides. There's never been a technology where that's been the case. Usually it's either top down or bottom up, but there's never been a case where the same framework can be used by the individual at a very low economic rate, $50, all the way up to a nation state, $50 billion. And you're using the same set of tools, the same set of infrastructure. It's pretty magical.
Well, clearly, Charles, you're a believer in technology if you think it's going to restore faith to the US electoral system after what we've seen. But this is actually what I would like to maybe end on with, when I could quickly go around each of the panelists. I mean, I think you wouldn't mind if I describe you all as Afro-optimists. You know, this is a continent that clearly has its fair share of problems. It has a lot of poverty. There is some instability in different parts, not everywhere by any means. There are infrastructure shortfalls. And of course, the continent has been hammered economically by COVID-19. And yet here you are, four people kind of talking quite positively about this continent. Could I go around each of you and just say, you know, just ask, where do you see the continent in the say 5 years ahead? And how do you think technology will play a role in that vision that you have for the continent? If I could start maybe with Dynal, and we could go around.
Yeah, I mean, there's when you look at Africa, it's a very youthful place, and you know, I was having a chat the other day with a friend of mine who's an entrepreneur here. Is like, we've got a lot of ideas. We're never short of ideas. What we lack really is capital, and it's very hard for us to get our ideas off the ground, because normally we need to kind of get a proof of concept together before VCs take us seriously, and we need to go the extra mile compared to Western countries. And really what we're enabling, and I think what makes me really excited about everything that we're doing, is really democratizing access to that finance. So the entrepreneur here on the continent, and there's many of them, can access this and you know, bring these ideas to fruition. So I'm really excited. I mean, we're starting with ID, but there's other ideas that we've got. For example, if you look at the Catalyst and the interest we've managed to get there from many small companies wanting to build, bringing that to the continent, so you know, all these entrepreneurs can access that capital as well. So I'm really positive. I'm excited for them. I think happy to be, you know, work with them on that journey.
Jerry, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't categorize myself as an optimist. I'm actually more of a skeptic and a realist. You know, I've been in the industry for 25 years in the IT industry, and I've seen all the waves of disruptive innovation. And in fact, before I joined this company, this industry, I was quite skeptical. But once you start looking into it, truly looking into it, the data supports it. So just to answer your question about Africa, this is not just about what we think is going to happen and being optimistic. The data supports this, right? The economic development, the literacy rates, the connectivity, all that's going in the right direction. Of course, there are problems. Of course, things like pandemics can set things back, but the long-term trend is definitely there. I mean, I think, Charles, you've mentioned this before about thinking of China back in the 70s. I think the analogy is very accurate, and I don't see it as optimism. I see it as realism. The other side of it is, you know, just going back to the flash in the pan comment before, again, I'm in this industry. I'm seeing real life use cases. I'm seeing the change happen. And there's unique attributes of this new world of blockchain that didn't exist before. And I could see it on the ground happening. And there's no surprise that big industries, the institutions are all coming in, the central banks, they all see it as well. And if you read all their reports, they know this is going to happen. So I don't even see it as if, I only see it as when. And let me just give one example here, that just by demonstrating this, you can see there's nothing else that matches this type of capability. So the idea is kind of plugging you into this system, the Cardano protocol. The Cardano protocol is not just a technology, It represents millions of people across the world, including small businesses that are looking to solve problems in an open source fashion. So you plug into the system in Africa, and then you could source solutions from across the globe to solve your problems. That's very unique. And I think where we saw in the past a lot of technologies leading to a digital divide, this technology is kind of the first big push at a reversal of the digital divide, because it does democratize, it does give power to the edges. And I could just give one use case that I saw recently that really blew my mind. There was this girl in Pakistan who was a very talented artist. And locally they knew her as a talented artist, and she made these paintings, but of course she couldn't get finance to become a full-time artist. But with the blockchain, she was able to present her art to the world and managed to get payment through an NFT for her art, which allowed, again, it wasn't a large sum of money, but for her, it allowed her to become a professional artist. I don't see anything else like this. So as far as I'm concerned, it's real. We're seeing the change, and it's not a question of optimism. It's a question of realism. The data is there, and as the years go by, the general population will see more and more of it.
Right. John, anything to add? You're sitting there in Addis Ababa, I think.
I am. That's why my internet connection's not great, and you may not be able to see me. Yeah, for me, the identity shift is going to happen, right? So we're going to be seeing digital identity percolate through all of the, the states which we're talking about across Africa, and I think that process has already started, and we're just part of that wave. Where I get really excited is starting to think about open finance and how we can drive down the cost of capital for an entrepreneur, for a small and medium sized enterprise. And that's where I think Cardano is really going to shine. We've got $45 billion of liquidity on the platform right now. If over the next year, we can start to offer finance to smallholder farmers at a much lower interest rate than they can get through local capital, I think we'll have succeeded. And honestly, this is where I see a lot of the blockchain industry going. There's been this obsession with decentralized finance, but let's start with real finance, right? We have people who have economic needs, and they have needs for loans and for insurance. So let's just do that at a fairer rate, and I think the industry could be proud of itself. So this is where I hope we're going.
And Charles, are the regulators up for this? And is it fair to describe you as an Afro-optimist?
Well, first off, there are rich people, poor people in every place in the world. Go to San Francisco and take a look at how many homeless people are running around. And supposedly the United States is the wealthiest country in the world. And the reality is that for some people, we're the poorest country in the world, and we're brutal to our impoverished in this country. And people, they have this negative opinion or this patronizing opinion. Oh, this group or this continent or this country is impoverished. There's no material difference between those people and our people. It's just systems are different. And systems are what make people collectively richer or poorer. I hate the poverty in my own backyard. I hate the homelessness in my own backyard. I hate the fact that despite the fact we're such a big and powerful nation, there are whole communities that are devastated and left behind. I can't change that through the ballot box in the United States any more than voting has changed anything in our financial system in the last 25 years. What I can do is change systems, and then you go and look for who's in the business of a new system. Yeah, it's kind of funny. We get startups, and it's obvious to us that you're going to probably, if you're a clever investor, make a lot more money buying a startup's share and watching it grow and appreciate than buying a share of Microsoft at its $2 trillion valuation. But we don't think about startup nations. It's the same concept, though. A nation state has a collection of activities, and it competes against other nation states. And these other nation states are incumbents, and they have systems. And so if you have a startup nation that's actually changing the way it does things, within 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, a huge delta will occur, and those systems will create a collective wealth for all the citizens of that nation. Look at Singapore and how far they've gone in 100 years. So I'm in the business of selling systems. That's what blockchain entrepreneurs do. And I would love for the systems I sell to be all around me in the United States. And I don't see a strong uptake or an appetite for that. I see the status quo, and I'm very cynical in that respect. But I see a huge uptake in Africa, and it makes me optimistic. You can't tell me when you have population demographics of 70% at or under the age of 30, and they're internet enabled, that they're just going to accept the status quo. That's a recipe for radical and dramatic change over 10 years or 20 years. And they're not going to go and say, how about we go to a regressive old system that's already been proven to be wrong? They're going to say, let's try something new. Let's experiment, just like Japan did in the 1950s as they were reconstructing their country from the back of World War II. And look at what it did for them. And analogously, the same thing is going to happen throughout the entire continent. And if we're in the right place at the right time, and it really is like being in China in the 1980s or early 90s, where you recognize that it's materially different from the policies of the past. And so that makes me tremendously optimistic. It means that first, we can change the lives of over 1 billion people. And second, if we do it the right way, because those people are getting really rich really quickly, we can change the lives of all the people around us in our homes, whether it be the UK or it be America, because these nation states are dynamic and they recognize if they're falling behind, they have to change things. Just like newspapers had to recognize that the internet was a threat to their business model. And the ones that admitted it became the New York Times. The ones that didn't became the Rocky Mountain News. I like the Rocky Mountain News. It was a great paper. It's gone. There's no one there left. So that's where we're at. And we're in the systems business. And so I think Africa is the best place to sell what we have. There's an overwhelming demand for it from every side that you can look at. And also, I like dealing with young, hopeful, optimistic people. I'll close with this. I had a friend in the aerospace business, and he worked at NASA for a long time. And he told me, he said, SpaceX is going to take us to Mars. And this was right in the early days of SpaceX. I said, how do you know? Musk is not a rocket scientist. He's not like a big guy in this. He said, because his friend was at NASA during the Apollo mission. And everybody in the Apollo mission was young. And they were passionate, and they were just filled with life and vibrancy and joy, and they wanted to change the world. They had this mission, and it was almost like a divine quest for them. There was no challenge that was too big to achieve. And so they got it done. They took us to the moon. And you look at NASA today, it's very bureaucratic. Everybody's siloed. It's everything is slow. There's this expectation. It takes 10 years to do anything. You look at SpaceX's composition. You have all these 25-year-old, 30-year-old guys and gals who are fresh out of school, and they honestly believe they're going to Mars. They're fanatics in that respect. So who do you want to bet on? Do you want to bet on the people who are cynical and bureaucratic and too wise for their own good and say it's never going to happen? Or do you want to bet on the kids who are willing to work 100 hours a week if necessary, every day, 7 days a week, with a fanatical resolve to change things? You look at nation states, you ask yourself, where are we? In America, we have a 79-year-old president. We have this ossified Senate and this Congress. We can't even get an infrastructure bill passed when it's obvious we should do that. And then you look at Ethiopia, and 70% of the population is at or under the age of 30. The prime minister is a cryptographer. You know, they're ready to go. They're ready to change. So if I'm in the systems business, I'm selling to them, and I'm betting on them, because those are the guys that take us to Mars. Those are the guys that are really going to change the world. And if they get it done right, the rest of the world will react. They'll change. And then maybe our own backyards will be a little bit better.
Well, as a cynic by profession, it's good to hear such optimism about a continent that I care deeply about. So thanks very much. I found the discussion very very interesting. Clearly, a lot going on. Thank you.
So that's pretty much it now for the Africa special. But I think to close the show, we need to go back to John O'Connor, our Director of African Operations, who I believe is currently in Kenya. John, a lot of hard work to get here, a long journey.
It's been a couple of years of hard work, and this is really the culmination of all of that effort. So super excited to share all of the results with you guys.
So lots of activity right now, but how can we see the next year playing out?
Well, whilst our partnership with Ethiopia's Ministry of Education is super significant and definitely one of the largest blockchain implementations done, it's only really the first step in our goal to issue 100 million identities on Cardano and on Atala Prism over the next 2 years. So whilst this first 5 million is really great, it's just one portion of the 30 million identities we've already got in our pipeline for Africa this year.
And World Mobile, tell us how that's going to make an impact.
By launching a telecoms company in Tanzania with World Mobile, we're going to be onboarding 100,000 subscribers this year in Zanzibar alone. So the key USP here is offering data that's twice as fast at half the price. So not only is every single subscriber going to have an identity issued on Atala Prism, but we're also going to be introducing the first real fi loans by Q1 of next year. So these are going to be loans which are provided through Cardano's liquidity, and which will for the first time offer a bridge between on-chain finance and real economic value for people.
And of course, lots of other exciting partnerships with their own roadmaps, a lot to keep track of. But in fact, we've launched a new website, haven't we, so that people can do exactly that?
Yeah, we have. There's going to be a specific portal dedicated to all things Cardano Africa, africa.cardano.org, and I think it's actually live right now. So this is going to be the best way for people to keep up with what we're doing, and we're really excited for people to start engaging with our content, learning how to code in Haskell, learning how to code smart contracts, and you'll be able to find out all that information on the portal.
So John, thank you very much for all the hard work over the last few years, and also for helping us pull together today's Africa special. So that's it. Lots to take in and lots to look forward to. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next month.